Going over to the Culture podcast, you have Nelson Peltz selling his Disney stock. Are they doomed? Now, Nelson Peltz is probably one of the most well-known activist investors, which is funny they call him that, where his methodology is kind of the antithesis. So he'll buy shares in a lot of these companies that have, many would say, lost their way, and they're not focusing on the core competencies that made them great. One of his most famous turnarounds was, I believe, is actually for Dr. Pepper, which was later subsequently bought by or consolidated with 7 Up, then even later was bought out by Keurig, and that's why now it's known as Keurig Dr. Pepper. They're nationally located, headquartered in Massachusetts. And then he also helped Unilever decrease their amount of political activity in terms of, when I say political, I mean also mean culturally, yet doing things that are considered controversial and taking away from, again, their core competencies. Now, Nelson Peltz, like many investors, have noticed, well, Disney used to be a blue chip stock. It used to be one of the most reliable things you can buy back in the day. You knew you weren't going to get rich overnight. It wasn't like a tech stock where one new widget or one new feature could be revolutionary. You just knew over time it was going to grow because they made a product that was appealing to the mass audience. But over time they decided that they would inject activism into their products, inserting sexual themes into child materials, which most people find morally, mentally vacuous as well as disgusting, including myself. And yeah, Disney's actually losing money on movies, which, again, you look at Disney, they used to basically have a legal license to print money. I mean, most of their movies, they were gangbusters. Some of the most profitable animations in history come from Disney, and then, of course, they also they own Pixar. And yet, they're losing money in movies, which shows you how the amount of ineptitude there is just unprecedented. They're losing money in movies. Like last year, they lost $2 billion in movies, which, again, if you were to tell someone that in the 90s, they would have laughed you out of the room. Because the long historic of Disney was just making money, making great products that everyone loved. They had these old ancient terms that you might have to dust off, in the dictionary to see, but they had things like morals, values. I mean, the bare necessities used to be, teaching kids that you really just need the bare necessities. You don't need the latest widget or gadget to be happy. Which I always tell parents, when you have all those, instances where the kid is more happier with the box and the product that comes in the box, take those pictures. And then when they need, they get older, they say, "Mom, I need the iPhone 58 to be happy." Say, "Look, Bob or Sally or whatever you name a kid. You were just as happy with the empty box than you were with the actual toy. I can buy you an iPhone box." But I partially digress. Well, a lot of people started to notice, well, Disney's going in the wrong direction. They're losing money. They're losing market share. They're literally creating their own competition. Well, probably in a different direction. I mean, Bob Iger, again, he had some great tactics. He was one of the ones that spearheaded the purchase of some of the best known intellectual property on the planet, including Marvel and Lucasfilm, which was realistically known for the Avengers movies as well as the Star Trek movies. Kidding, I know it's the Star Wars and the Indiana Jones. And they, in my opinion, they produced those things like Corollas, which, again, the most successful car in history. However, unlike that, they produced it by very large volume, but unlike the Toyota Corolla, there was no value or no reliability or no substance, really. So they were even losing money on those. Again, Nelson Peltz said, hell, why don't I get involved? So he started to buy up shares more and more and more, and got to the point where he had enough shares so he could justify a vote to get a seat on the board of directors, which one of the most important things about publicly traded companies is the board of directors. Because again, they have a lot of influence on how the company moves around, how can they make improvements, what kind of strategy, what kind of vision the company should have, and they also work with the CEO to guide him in the right direction. It's kind of a sounding board, pun not really intended, from a certain degree. And he was fighting to get a couple seats on the board of directors. And Nelson Peltz, he had his first win early on. He said, "Hey, Mr. Bob Iger," which again, Bob Iger, a lot of people blame him for. Bob Chapek was his protege. He became CEO and made the things worse. But nevertheless, Nelson Peltz said, "Hey, you need to cut costs." And to his credit, Bob Iger listened to that one specific bullet point, and he laid out a plan to cut around, I believe, around $7 billion over the next couple of years, which, again, Disney has been doing. They've been dramatically decreasing the costs, which they need to because they become so bloated almost to resemble an inept government, which I know it's kind of a double negative. I should have just said government, but get what I'm trying to say. Now, this was also reported by Sarah Salinas and Scott over at CNBC. Note that Nelson Peltz sells entire Disney stake weeks after losing proxy battle, aka trying to get seats on the board of directors. Now, it looks like in terms of the sale, Nelson actually is going to make a pretty penny. So, again, this is allegedly, or is according to someone familiar with the matter, all this asterisks, they say that Peltz sold all of his Disney stock at roughly $120 per share. meaning he made about $1 billion. The share is also back down to about $100 per share. You notice that this comes weeks after Peltz's partnership, known as Triton Partners, lost a proxy battle. Oops. Hopefully, it kept recording. A little bit of a technical error there. Apologies for that. But nevertheless, this comes a couple weeks after his parent company, Triton, actually sold off their shares of the company. And it'll be interesting to see if, does Disney actually truly change? Do you think they can actually make a comeback? Again, not to be too bombastic, Disney is one of the most well-known companies on the planet, and they have a large vault of intellectual property that they can milk for decades. And truth be told, they are getting close. I believe they actually did technically make their first profit on Disney Plus / Hulu, their streaming platform, which again took some time to get to, but they're finally at that point. So they seem to be at least getting close to making some money again. Now, will they actually get rid of the political agendas that they're injecting into all of these different types of materials? I'm a little pessimistic on that, but let me know in the comments. As always, I'd be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in. Again, trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so if you could click that button, I would greatly appreciate it. Also, leaving a thumbs up, thumbs down, or comment is a great way to give me some additional feedback, letting me know how I can make the show better and better. Lastly, don't forget to take the time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe, fight the good fight.